What's up guys, this is Balázs from Racing Brick. Whenever LEGO releases a Technic set with the Control Plus badge, meaning it has some powered up hardware in it, so every time it happens there's a debate whether it is too expensive or not compared to the non-motorized Technic sets. Obviously the usual conclusion is that yes, it is way too expensive, but if you compare it to the astronomical price of the individual powered up components, then the answer is not that simple. We all know that buying powered up hubs and motors is much better if you buy a set, but which one should you actually buy if you want to get most hardware for your money? Let's find it out. So today we'll be juggling a lot with numbers. Excel will be your best friend. Here's a list of all sets released in the recent years with the Control Plus badge, their piece count and the price. The price is in US dollar. I chose this as a reference because that appears in most databases. Euro prices differ from country to country, so this seemed to be the most logical choice. As you can see, if you simply check the price and the piece count, it's not that simple to decide which one is the best deal. A logical approach is to see what is the price per piece ratio, so what is the price of the set per 1000 pieces. From this perspective, the most expensive sets win easily as they have the highest piece count as well. But the story is far from being this simple. The number and type of included powered up components is very different for each set. Let's see that data as well. Okay. So as you can see, the Leap Hair and the Cat had a very similar average price, but the Leap Hair has way more hubs and motors, so that really should be a better deal. The Zetros is also fairly good with that average price and the 4 motors. I'm sure you will say that not all motors are equal. A large motor costs more than double than a simple medium motor, and you are right. Let's add that data as well, so you'll see here the motor types and also the full retail price of the powered up components. So, we see the number of components, but how could we compare it to the price? Let's add a column that calculates the full retail price of the powered up components included in the set. Now this is more interesting. Previously we only thought that the Leaper is a good deal. Now you can see that the price of the included powered up components is actually higher than the full retail price, so you technically get 4000 LEGO pieces for free. Of course, the official price of the powered up parts is insanely high, but this number is still an indicator of the set's overall value. The Cat, on the other hand, despite the similar price per piece ratio, is a worse deal from this perspective if we compare it with the Leap Hair, for example. The price of the powered up parts included in the Zetros is almost the same as the Cat, despite the significant difference in price. Okay, but this does not take into consideration the value of the non-electric pieces included in the set. Now that's a tough one to calculate as no LEGO pieces have a fixed price. You can buy them on lego.com directly, but the prices are changing there and the availability is very random. Bricklink can show you an average price for the last 6 months, but I found no easy way to get that value for every piece included in the set. If you know any method, let me know please in the comments. This will be again an oversimplification, but here's what I did. I randomly selected a few popular non-Control Plus Technic sets from the previous years and calculated their price per piece ratio. Depending on the set size, it's between $60 and $103 here, and the average is $80 for 1000 pieces. I will use this value for my Control Plus sets as well. Again, I know this is a very simple calculation, but let's stick to this for now. With this data, I can now do this calculation. Subtract the number of powered up parts from the piece count and see the theoretical price of the set without the electronic components using the average $80 per 1000 pieces value. I rounded up the value a bit for an easier reading, so you can see here how much would a non-Control Plus set cost with this piece count. As you see, there's a huge difference between the sets with the low and high piece counts, but in general, all of them has a lower price than the sum of the powered up components price and the estimated price without them. One final step for clarity, I simply subtracted the non-electric parts price from the original one. That gives us the real price we are paying in the set for all those powered up components. Another column was added here to see that value compared to the full retail price of the powered up parts, and this number shows us which set is really the best deal among these. No big surprises, but now we have a proof to show. The Leap Hair is really the best deal among all of them. You only pay 26% for the 2 hubs and 7 motors compared to their full price at lego.com. Since this set is rumored to be retired soon and there are some great deals available that makes it even cheaper, I suggest to go for this one if you want to upgrade your powered up inventory. I suggest to check out my deals page for the best prices. Interestingly, the second one is the Volvo, that is not a very popular option in general, but apparently with the 1 hubs 3 motors and almost 2200 pieces, the overall value for the package is pretty good. There are 4 sets with a very similar result. I think in case of these you can decide based on the set itself or the type of electric or non-electric parts included, and of course a good discount might be a deal breaker. The Zetros, for example, can be already bought with a huge discount. Amazon Germany and Zavi.com both have great deals running currently, and you can expect even more coming for Black Friday. This method leaves the 4x4 Extreme Offroader at the end of the list, which is a bit surprising for me, but it also shows that you might want to think about more factors when you do such comparison. I personally think the Extreme Offroader is still a better set than the Top Gear rally car, for example, but that's just my opinion, and the playability and versatility of the set could not be taken into consideration this time. And there's also one thing to mention based on these numbers. The Cat received tons of complaints as being way too expensive compared to other sets considering the amount of powered up components included. If we take that 60% range of half of the sets as the middle ground, then you can see it is not particularly worse than the others. It's still the Liebherr that is a much better deal than everything else. So this was my comparison and buying recommendation for all LEGO Technic Control Plus sets. Please share your thoughts and feedback in the comments. If you like this video, then please give it a thumbs up. You can also subscribe and tap that notification bell if you don't want to miss my upcoming LEGO reviews and other LEGO RC videos. See you next time, bye bye.